y firmeza, no llegarás a saberlo nunca. Siempre tendrás un nivel medio. Infórmate, grupobaugan.com.
Inglés, gramática fácil, ejercicios es un libro de autoestudio que está pensado para acompañar a nuestro bestseller Inglés, gramática fácil. El libro trabaja desde las estructuras más básicas hasta las más complejas a través de ejercicios clásicos de Vaughan, como la traducción inversa, la formación de preguntas y respuestas o la práctica de oraciones afirmativas, negativas e interrogativas. También incluye ejercicios clásicos como completar o unir frases. Su estructura sigue el orden de Inglés, gramática fácil, libro de referencia de gramática de Vaughan Systems, por lo que Inglés, gramática fácil, ejercicios es perfecto para consolidar lo aprendido. Incluye más de 700 ejercicios escritos, así como 180 ejercicios enfocados en el listening. Incluye audio descargable en MP3.
Consíguelo en nuestras tiendas Vaughan o en grupobaugan.com.
Emprender es crear algo valioso, algo relevante, donde antes no había nada. Emprender es convertir una idea, una reflexión, una ilusión en un imperio. Pequeño o grande, es aspirar a crear un vergel donde antes solo había erial.
No siempre es fácil poner en marcha un nuevo proyecto y menos aún alcanzar el éxito como líder de equipos. Si quieres descubrir las claves del éxito de la mano de Richard Vaughan y Javier Fernández Aguado, no te pierdas las 2 nuevas convocatorias del seminario Emprender y Liderar, las claves del éxito. Debido a la gran demanda y al éxito de las anteriores convocatorias, tienes 2 nuevas oportunidades. El jueves 27 de septiembre o el jueves 25 de octubre de 16:30 a 20:30 horas en Áncora, Madrid, calle Trafalgar 6. Solicita más información en grupobaugan.com/seminario. Este verano, refresca tu inglés. Descubre nuevos sonidos. Es Vaughan Radio. Descubre, aprende. Esto es Vaughan Radio. Este verano, no abandones tu inglés. En Vaughan nos gusta la tecnología, la innovación, nos gusta innovar. Por eso, el jueves a las 12 del mediodía estaremos in company en eBay, el lugar de las oportunidades únicas. Aquí comienza Inglés Online TVE.
All right, folks, welcome to the program. Yes, it is that time. Inglés Online TVE, Inglés Online TVE. Well, I hope you can see me. We are, in fact, live. And you can participate in the show today online on YouTube, right? You can join in. You can watch the show. Of course, you can hear us on the radio, but you can also write in and you can participate. If you have any questions, send them to me through the chat on YouTube. But also you want to follow the chat, right? Follow it. Click on the little bell to get notifications. Inglés Online TVE. Inglés Online TVE. And we have a bunch of people writing in. Valentino says, hello, folks. Hi, Valentino. How are you? And David Santana's there. He says, hello, Kyle. How's it hanging? Which is kind of a slang way of saying, how's it going? How's it going? Oh, pretty good. Pretty good, man. It's going well. Okay, let's begin. It's class number 133, everybody. Let's begin with today's beginner content.
Nivel básico.
All right. Yes, our beginner content today. A lot of people writing in. First of all, let's see. People are writing in. I'm going to answer some of your questions here. Ivan says, hello, my friend. Long time without seeing you. Okay, well, thank you. Chema says, hi, Kyle. When I was in Russia at the World Cup, I realized that I have to improve my English, but Russian people have to improve it more than me. Vaughn would do a good business there. Well, maybe we need to go to Russia. What do you say, Juanjo? Vamos a Rusia. We could go teach some English in Russia, right? Yeah, well, no, to go to trabajar ahí. Enseñar inglés ahí. He says, yeah. Well, Juanjo says, claro. Yeah, exactly. Let's go. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe someday we'll be there. I don't know. Maria Pilar says, hello, Kyle, and all of you. Hello. Ricardo says, sup, Kyle? Like, what's up? Nahad says, hello, teacher. Hello, my friend. Hello, everybody. Thanks for connecting. Let's get things started with our content. Beginner content, everybody. She knows my uncle, but she doesn't know my aunt. Mi tía. Conoce a mi tío, pero no a mi tía. She knows my uncle, but she doesn't know my aunt. Some people say aunt, some people say aunt. In fact, I usually say aunt. I have an Aunt Sheila. I have an Aunt Catherine. I have two aunts. Yeah. I have two aunts. I used to have three, but now I have two. Yes. Aunts. Aunts. Some people say aunts, aunts, either way. But I have more uncles than I do. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 uncles. What would you... Sorry, the sentence, she knows my uncle, but she doesn't know my aunt. Yes, I have an uncle. On my father's side, I have one uncle. On my father's side, I have one aunt. Neither of them are married. My aunt, right now at least, my aunt and my uncle. And then on my mother's side, I have more aunts and uncles. I have some aunts and uncles in the United States and some aunts and uncles in Canada. Yeah. She knows my aunt, but she doesn't know, or she knows my uncle, but she doesn't know my aunt. Right? She knows, but she doesn't know. So this is a good structure. Like it's just a very basic structure, right? With the verb to know. We also have the verb to meet. Conocer a alguien por primera vez is to meet someone. So, for example, I met Juanjo 5 years, hace 5 años, ¿no, Juanjo? Que te conocí? 6 años. He says, I met Juanjo 6 years ago. I have known him for 6 years because I met him 6 years ago. We met at the radio station. We met at Vaughan Radio. We didn't meet here. We met at the other studio. We used to have a studio at in on the other side of Madrid, Virgen de Nuria. It was called the little street. And we used to have a studio there. And that's where I met Juanjo. I said, hey, hi, I'm Kyle. Hi, I'm Juanjo. Nice to meet you. Encantado. Nice to meet you. So I met him, and I have known him since then. I also met Richard Vaughn. I met Richard Vaughn 15 years ago. Hace 15 años. I met Richard Vaughn 15 years ago. I met him. I've known him for 15 years. I met him. 15 years ago. Joaquin says, I'm not sure what Joaquin's talking about. He says, nope. And says, pues sí, la hay. I'm not sure exactly what he's talking about, though, Joaquin. What are you referring to, my friend? I met Richard Vaughn 15 years ago, and I have known him for 15 years. I've known him since the day I met him. I met him at a dinner. Actually, I met Richard Vaughn at a dinner before going to Vaughan Town. Yes, in 2003. And I was volunteering for the Vaughan Town. That's how I got to know the company. That's how I met the company. I was first introduced to this company, to Vaughan Systems, through the Vaughan Town program. And I met a young woman named Maria, who was my contact, who I was speaking with over the phone, and she invited me to attend the program, and the Vaughan Town program. And then I came to Spain and said, oh, Maria, she was the only person I knew in Spain. So I looked for her in the office, and then she introduced me to some other people. She invited me to a dinner with all the other people who were going to attend the program. And we had a little dinner, and I met Richard Vaughn, and I met his wife, and I have known them since then. That was 15 years ago. I met Fitz shortly after that. I've known Fitz for a long time. When I started teaching, Fitz, who you may know from Vaughan Radio, and I started teaching together. We trained to be teachers together 14 and a half years ago. I met Fitz 14 and a half years ago. Wow. I've known him for 14 and a half years. I met Alberto Alonso 10 years ago. I've known him for 10 years. I met Dave Boys 14 years ago. Probably 13 and a half or 14 years ago. It's interesting. So I've known a lot of people in this company for a long time. Yes. So she knows my uncle, but she doesn't know my aunt. Now there's a lot of controversy here in the chat about the pronunciation of the word. Oh boy, now my mouse isn't working. I apologize. Oh, here we go. There's some controversy in the chat about the pronunciation. Gemma says, is there any difference between the pronunciation of aunt and aunt as in hormiga? No. Now, aunt, you could say aunt, aunt. It's take your pick. Aunt or aunt, you can say it either way. But if you say aunt de tia, you can say aunt that way, and it's pronounced the same as aunt de hormiga. Correct, exactly the same. But it's spelled A-U-N-T. Some people say aunt, some people say aunt. You can say it either way. So it can be pronounced as in hormiga. Belen says, I met you at the book fair here in Madrid. That's true. You did, Belen. Yes, it was a pleasure to meet you. Yolanda just saying, some people are making references to things I'm not sure what they're talking about. About Russian, about learning Russian, I suppose. Nihad says, I met Kyle by accident. Oh, did you? Okay. Where did you meet me? Here? Did you meet me at the book fair? Belen says, yes, there's a difference. Aunt is pronounced with an E and a long A, whereas aunt is pronounced X. I'm not sure what she means. But no, Ben, you can say aunt or aunt. You can say aunt just like, my aunt is an ant. Mi tía es una hormiga. My aunt is an ant. Exactly the same. Perfectly correct. Okay. Let's push forward. Okay, we have our beginner sentence. She knows my uncle, but she doesn't know my aunt. Okay, let's go ahead with today's intermediate sentence.
Nivel intermedio.
How was the exam? Hey, how was the exam? ¿Qué tal fue el examen? How was the exam? I was quite tricky. I'm worried about the result. Era un poco difícil, eh? It was, how was, ¿qué tal fue el examen? How was the exam? It was quite tricky. It was a bit difficult, un poco difícil, a bit difficult. It was quite tricky, right? So first of all, you have exam and you do have test, examen. But in English, you have test and exam, and they're a bit different. An exam is more profound. An exam is more important than a test. When I was young, when I was in school, we would do tests, like a math test. Maybe once a month you had a math test. But at the end of the year, around June, you would have to sit down and write an exam, and it was worth, I remember when I was in high school, my exams were worth 40% of my grade. So it was a big, I'd study a lot. I'd study a lot for the exam because it was worth a lot, but maybe I did 8 tests through the year. Maybe the tests were each worth 5%, and they would add up to be worth 40%, let's say. But then one exam was worth a lot. Maybe one exam was worth just 40% itself, right? Anyway, how was the exam? ¿Qué tal fue el examen? Or you could say an eye exam. I'm going for an eye exam. The doctor's going to examine my eye. I'm going for an eye test. You could say that too, but an exam is more serious. An exam is worth more. An exam is more important than a test. How was the exam? It was quite tricky. Fue bastante difícil. It was tricky. It was not easy. It was tricky. It was tough. It was a bit difficult. Tricky. And Evelyn says, I was thinking tricky was like fishy or something like that. No, tricky just means difficult, un poco difícil. But it's a very casual word for saying difficult. But con truco, it had a trick to it. It was a little tricky. It was a little difficult. Tricky. How was the exam? It was quite tricky. Like driving exam tests, I think in Spain are quite tricky. Some people pass them. Sometimes you pass them. Sometimes you fail them, right? Because they're tricky. They're not easy. How was the exam? It was quite tricky. I'm worried about the result. I'm worried about the result. I'm going to go back. Yolanda said something very good here. She says the specific pronunciation of aunt, depends on the accent of the person who is pronouncing it. Correct. But I sometimes say aunt and I sometimes say aunt. Right? Like there's some words that with optional pronunciation, it's not always a question of where you're from. This is something with pronunciation. Some people think, there's a British way and an American way. Sometimes there's just a couple different ways we can say it. And people pronounce things differently. Aunt. Some days I feel like saying aunt. Some days I feel like saying aunt. Some days I feel like saying, I don't know, another example. Well, there are other examples. There are other words. I can't think of one now with multiple pronunciations where you have options, which is good, right? It's good to have options. How was the exam? It was quite tricky. I'm worried about the result. That's our sentence. Evelyn says difficult, tricky, tough. Tough is a good word. Tough. Ooh, duro. Huh? Era un poco duro, eh? Tough, difficult, tricky. Difficult is difícil. Era duro, era difícil. So there are differences. These are fine differences, but as long as you understand, generally speaking, right? Maria Pilar has a question. Now she's asking again, sorry, have you received my question about the word shall? Is this word still current? Now, current, is it currently? Yes, it is. Shall I give you an example? Actually, I just did. So shall, but it's a limit. Be careful because it's only used in first person, asking for permission. So it's very polite. I don't use it when I'm talking to my brother. Shall I get you an egg? No. Hey, do you want an egg? Shall I get, now, if you want to be polite, shall I open the door? Shall I offer you? It's very polite. It's current, as you say, current. You know, it's okay to use, but it's very formal. Shall I do this? Shall I get you something? Shall we begin? Right? So there, for first person plural, shall we? Okay. Okay, Yolanda says, I was talking about ENT earlier, Kyle. I may have sidetracked. ENT is the name given to those creatures in Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, the tree shepherds. Yes, Ent. Okay, Ent. Okay, fair enough. Chema says, here in Spanish, we do things easier. We write the words the way we pronounce them. Well, often, but not always. Not always. Usually, yes. But yeah, you're right. Spelling is much easier in English. In Spanish, excuse me. Spelling is easier. That's true. That I give you that. Okay, but then you have accents, and those are tough, right? In Spanish, people make a lot of mistakes with accents, writing accents. So that's something we don't have to do in English. We have to memorize the pronunciation, but we don't have to learn certain rules for putting accents on words. So some aspects are easier in Spanish and some aspects are easier in English, I suppose. How was the exam? It was quite tricky. I'm worried about the result. That's our intermediate sentence. Let's push forward. And go ahead with today's advanced content.
Nivel avanzado.
What would you have done if it had happened to you? Oh, it's our old friend, the third conditional. What would you have done? Would have participle if subject had participle. What would you have done if it had happened to you? Where would you have eaten if you couldn't have eaten here? What would you have done if you couldn't have done that? Where would you have come if you couldn't have come here? Where would you have hosted the show if you couldn't have hosted the show here? It's the third conditional, right? My father was tall because his father was tall. If your grandfather, my grandfather was tall and therefore my father was tall. If your grandfather hadn't been tall, your father wouldn't have been tall. Okay. In fact, we could practice with a few sentences with the third conditional. It's a good structure, an interesting structure, worth practicing, the conditionals. And this is a bit tougher. Let me see if I can find in my list. When I have to find these things. Okay, here we go. Si le hubieras visto, te habrías dado cuenta. Si le hubieras visto, te habrías dado cuenta. If you had seen him, you would have realized. If you had seen him, you would have realized. Si me lo hubieran enviado, lo habría corregido. If they had sent it to me, I would have corrected it. Si hubiera habido fiesta, ellos no habrían ido. If there had been a party, they wouldn't have gone. Would. They wouldn't have gone. Loli writes in and says, hello from the pool in Madrid. Nice. It's hard to pronounce wood correctly. Any advice? Yes, it is. Yolanda says it's pronounced exactly the same as wood, as in madera. Yes. Wood. So if there had been a party, they would have gone. Wood is the same pronunciation as madera, but mysteriously, a lot of people say good. They pronounce it like a G. But you need to think of the word huevo. Huevo, an egg, huevo. And look at the way your lips go. Ooh, they make that O. Ooh, wood, huevo, wood, huevo, wood. So there's no g. With the G, I'm like smiling. But with the word huevo, I'm making an O with my lips. And you start with that oo sound. Ooh. And then wood. Ud. Like good, but start with the oo. Start with the round O sound in your mouth. And there you have the word wood. Buena madera. Good wood. Madera de calidad. This table is made of good wood. It's very good wood. Ivan says, conditionals are really tough for me. Well, I could practice them again another time soon on the Drive Time show, where we have a little more time. Si hubieran perdido, no habrían avanzado. Si hubieran perdido, no habrían avanzado. If they had lost, they wouldn't have advanced. If they had lost, they wouldn't have advanced. Habría sido tuyo si me lo hubieras pedido. It would have been yours if you had asked me for it. It would have been yours if you had asked me for it. The third conditional. So we have a third conditional here. And it's a question. What would you have done if it had happened to you? The answer, if it had happened to me, I would have been embarrassed. I would have been embarrassed. Oh, embarrassed. Yes. What would you have done if it had happened to you? And the answer, he says, I'd have been, which is a contraction of I would have been. I would have been embarrassed, or I'd have been embarrassed, or I'd have been so embarrassed was the sentence. Hopefully that makes sense. It's kind of a tricky sentence, but so it's not an easy one. What would you have done if it had happened to you? I'd have been so embarrassed. Yes, and Nihad writes in and says, if Kyle had been born in Russia, be careful, you need the bin. If Kyle had been born in Russia, he would have spoken Russian language. He would have learned Russian. Yes, he would have learned Russian. A tope vamos. We're saying goodbye, everybody. You can hear the music. It means we've got to finish. Okay. Evelyn says, yes, I remember in one lesson, you told us to never make a double would in the same. That's true. Yes. Yeah, we don't use the would and the would together. They always go on opposite sides of that conditional. We'll practice conditionals another time, but I'm out of time. Thank you for watching, folks. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Echo de menos esas clases por teléfono. Echo de menos esas tardes de clases en grupo.